equality is a lie, a hoax, the reality that most people are average, and that's just looking at the definition of the word. But what about the people who are below average? How does society treat them? What about the ones who are above average? The world of lookism isn't all that different from our world. The main character named Hyung Suk Park is fat, ugly, and short. He isn't rich or smart either. And so from the perspective of anyone other than his own mother, he is worthless. And you bet he gets bullied in school in worse ways than you can imagine. He can literally never catch a break, not even during classes, not even in the washroom. Wherever he is, the bullying follows him. It's a sad and ultimately tragic reality. No friends, no social life, obviously no girls either. Just endless mental and physical torture every single day. The other students don't want to help him because they don't want to attract any attention. The other losers are glad that the ones getting bullied are not them. And of course, then there are the bullies. What do? Well, they do their thing. But imagine that just what if, this fat, ugly loser woke up with a literal perfect body one day. Would he still get bullied? Well, that is more or less the premise of lookism. Now, before he gets that new body, Hyung is getting bullied all day, every day. It has gotten to a point where, unless he leaves the city for good, his situation is never going to get any better. Yes, he has to switch schools and start from scratch somewhere else, but it's not that easy, is it? His single mom works like a slave every day just to put food on the table. They are barely surviving. So she tells him that it was really hard for them to settle here. Besides, he wouldn't want to leave his friends, would he? Friends? What? He gets up and yells at his mom. Of course, he still doesn't say a word about the bullying he's been experiencing, but he does tell her that it's not his fault they're so poor. And right after saying this, he punches a wall. Tough, get this? His punch is so strong, he manages to put a hole in the wall. I mean, come on, if you're this strong, you should try punching one of those bullies next time. Am I right or what? Next day at school, as he's on his way to class, he bumps into one of the bullies, a girl. Even though she was the one on her phone, but hey, nobody wants to take the loser's side, do they? The big bully asks him to go get his gym clothes, and the next thing you know, they're out in the field practicing football. Well, it's mostly just Hyung getting targeted by their shoots. They don't want him to dodge either. Why? It's because they're betting to see who hits his face first. The girls tell them to hurry it up because the gym teacher would be there soon, and so the next guy shoots Hyung's face clean. Hyung even tried to get down, but the shooter expected that. The football hit him in the face and knocked his nerd glasses off. But it's a problem even if he gets hit. You see, the one who managed to hit him in the face wasn't the big bully, he was someone from the soccer team. And so the big bully is now angry that Hyung was able to dodge his shot, but he couldn't dodge that guy's shot. He punches Hyung in the gut. He punches him hard. Not only that, he then picks him up and starts slapping him in the face. But you know what? Someone saw this. No, it's not a gym teacher. It's a woman. It's Hyung Suk Park's mother. For some reason, she was at their school and she saw them beating and humiliating her son. And as you can expect, she acted. She stood in front of the bullies, started hitting them, and then told them off. Unfortunately, the girl and the other students start whispering about how he must have called his mother. They call him a loser and all sorts of other insults. And what does he do when he hears them insulting him? He tells his mother off. Guys, at that moment, the only one in the entire school who was on his side was his mother, and he told her off. I mean, can we get much lower? Later in the evening, when he finally returns home from school, you can see it on his face. He's sorry about what happened, but his mother must have a heart bigger than the Milky Way, because she just tells him to sit and have a conversation with her. That's it. She says it in a gentle voice, hinting that she's not angry at all. Obviously, Hyung tries to apologize, but she tells him to transfer. As it turns out, she was at his school to discuss a few transfer options with the staff. She tells him that he will have to live by himself because she can't leave her current job, but she will send him money. Hyung starts crying, and just like that, he's in Seoul, ready to start a new life. Finally, after all the endless bullying, he can catch a break. He gets a humble little place downtown and then goes out to get some stuff for himself. And as any country boy would, he is pleasantly surprised by all the hustle and bustle in Seoul, so much so that he doesn't watch where he's going and ends up bumping into a girl. But unlike the bullies he is used to, the girl is nice and sweet. She apologizes even though it was partially Hyung's fault. Well, this may have been the first time any woman other than his mother has ever treated him like a fellow human being. Sadly, our boy let it get to his head. He starts acting smug and acting like a creep, and while he's in the middle of this, the girl's boxer friend, namely Lee Jin Sung, enters the chat. The girl tells her friend that they should just go, but Hyung ends up grinning creepily. He catches that, and just when Hyung suggests that the three of them should get some coffee, he gets punched right in the face. It's not just one punch either. Everyone takes pictures and records videos while the boxer guy proceeds to beat the living life out of the boy. You see, Hyung thought that things would change if he just goes somewhere new, someplace where nobody knows him. But nothing has changed. The people who recorded him uploaded the video on the internet. It ended up going viral. Then when he's alone in his new home, he starts crying as he reads the comments on the video. Every single one of them stings like a bee. That night he cried himself to sleep. No, he basically just passed out. He wakes up in the middle of the night for a quick trip to the washroom, but when he sees the mirror, he sees someone else. It's a tall, handsome fella. If you were to see him on the street, you'd mistake him for a K-pop idol or even a movie star. If that wasn't weird enough, he also sees himself lying on the ground, still asleep. It takes him a few moments to put two and two together. He thinks about calling 911, but then he remembers all those horrible comments he read on the internet. And he also remembers why he's here. When it's time to go to school, he takes his new body. Yes, he's literally starting a new life from scratch. Speaking of a new life, his school is called J1 Vocational High. Stick with me, guys, we're going to see a lot of interesting characters in this school. Alright, so when Hyung pulls up to the school in his new body, everyone's eyes are on him. All the girls are practically fawning. You can almost see them drool. This is the level of riz we're talking about. Meanwhile, our boy is just hoping that nobody bullies him. When he enters the classroom and the teacher introduces him as the new transfer student, the entire classroom just fills up with flowers. The girls are all acting like they have seen a K-pop star. By the way, remember that sweet girl and the boxer guy from before? They are also in this class. Hyung goes and takes a seat. Now, normally the main character gets the window seat, but not Hyung. He gets the seat next to the boxer guy. But of course, the boxer guy has no idea it's the same loser he beat up the other day. He is still wary of him though. He is worried that his new handsome guy is going to steal his crush. Yes, he has a crush on that sweet female friend of his. Anyways, shortly after Hyung takes his seat, a girl named Ha Neol approaches him after putting on some fresh lipstick. She's actually the most popular girl in class. Poor Hyung, this was the first time in his life he ever actually experienced attraction from the opposite gender. He doesn't know how to handle it. Heck, he doesn't even know it's happening. What do we call it these days? Yeah, accidental riz. During lunchtime, she hangs out with him and eventually asks him the reason why he decided to take up fashion as his high school major. Well, to be fair, it's because his grades were so poor. Fashion was about the only major he could get in. However, he plays it cool and simply replies that he found fashion interesting. Then the next day at school, we see him casually dozing off in class. It's not just because of the boring lecture, so why? Well, yesterday evening he was walking and ended up tripping over something. Normally you'd fall, but his body moves as if he's an Olympian. It felt surreal, almost unreal. He decides to try and see what else his body is capable of. He runs around the back alleys, and even though he runs a lot, he doesn't get tired. Speed, strength, stamina, jumping power. It's all truly extraordinary, but it's not like he's an alien. He eventually got tired. That is why he's now dozing off in class. He falls asleep and then wakes up in his old body. Keep in mind that whenever he falls asleep or is knocked out, he wakes up in his other body. This is a problem because now that he is in his old body, he can't just force himself to go back to sleep. Luckily, Hanul pulls up to his desk and wakes him up. This returns him to his new body. Now, considering how he's going to be awake 24/7 in one body or the other, he decides that it would be a good idea to get his other body a nighttime job. That's why he goes to the local grocery store in the evening and asks the manager for a part-time job. The manager is psyched to see him. He knows that if he can get this guy on the payroll, all the girls would be swarming his store. But then he can almost feel the disappointment on his face when Hyung reveals that the job would be for his friend. But this disappointment is still nothing compared to when he actually sees Hyung in his old body. He just straight up tells him to go back home. But the manager comes around when our boy reveals his PhD level knowledge of cigarette brands. He used to buy them all the time for his bullies, so of course he knows the cigarette brands. The manager hires him after all. Unfortunately, trouble always follows him wherever he is. Shortly after the manager leaves the store in his hands, some guys from his new school show up and try to buy drinks and whatnot. You know, things you aren't supposed to sell to underage children. He tells them that they can't sell them the stuff unless they show him their ID. But guess what? The boxer guy is with them. He recognizes the guy and even punches him in the face. They all humiliate him, force him to take off his pants, and then take his photos. Guys, this is literally his first day at the job, and look at what happened. And when he goes to school the next day in his new body, he sees the boxer guy and his friends all laughing while looking at those photos. They are insulting him, and then it happens again. The bullies start insulting his mother. But unlike last time when Hyung was too much of a pushover to protect his mother's good name, this time he steps up. He tells them to knock it off, and this kind of pisses off the boxer guy because he already didn't like him. He challenges Hyung Suk to a boxing match right then and there. Suddenly everyone is watching them. Everyone, even students from other classes. The boxer guy is looking forward to defeating and destroying our boy because honestly he wants to look cool in front of his friend. Hyung, on the other hand, is mentally not ready, but physically he can handle anything. You know what's interesting? He has seen so many punches in his life that he can actually see them coming. Yes, he may have had a fat body, but his eyes were like Sharingan. But it all changes here because he now has the instincts to react in time no matter what kind of punch the boxer guy throws at him. The boxer guy then throws the punch. It's fast and powerful, but Hyung Suk easily and flawlessly dodges it. He dodges the punch so well that everyone is left stunned. The boxer guy then throws a few more punches, but every single one of them is easily dodged by our boy. He neatly dodges all the punches, and just when he sees the boxer guy lacking, he lands a punch in his face so strong and abrupt that the boxer guy basically stops mid-air for a few seconds before falling back on the ground. It's nuts! Soon, everyone is talking about their fight, even the big shots. There is a gang in their school called Burn Knuckles. The name of their leader is Basco. He looks terrifying, and he kind of gets annoyed when he hears about what the new transfer student did. However, later in that day, when our boy's old body is getting bullied once again, and there's another victim named Jiho, he shows up, he takes care of the bullies, and then even sheds some tears because it's always sad when weak people get bullied. Now back at school, while Hyung Suk is enjoying lunch in the cafeteria and Han-yeol is obviously flirting with him out in the open, the guys from Burn Knuckles pull up to the cafeteria. Hyung Suk sees Basco, recalls what he did for him and Jiho last night. He gets excited and approaches him. Little does he know Basco doesn't hold him in a positive light. Basco uses his infamous burning knuckle grip and single-handedly shifts the entire mood. It's been said that once Basco has a hold of you, it's impossible to break free. However, guess what? Hyung Suk shakes him off, and he does it with just one hand. Everyone is surprised and they think it's about to go down. But then the second in command of Burn Knuckles enters the chat. He tells Basco that they should leave. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When he tells Basco that they should leave, he says it as though if Basco stays, his safety would be in danger. This leads to everyone thinking that Hyung Suk won the confrontation, and so once again his reputation skyrockets. The same three blokes who were bullying his other body and Jiho last night decide to invite him for some drinks. Han-yeol wants to tag along because, well, she wants to hang out with him, and as it just so happens, our boxer friend joins them too. Once there, they start asking him all sorts of questions to learn more about this mysterious man. When he asks him where he lives, he replies that he lives with a friend, but they misunderstand and think that he probably lives with a criminal, a mafia boss maybe. Next, Hyung Suk knows that our boxer friends don't really like him, especially after what happened in their fight. But when he says that he and his friend looked like a couple, that man's face lights up and all the contempt he ever had for Hyung Suk fades away for good. Though of course they're still not in the same boat, they talk about the video they made where they forced Jiho to fight his old boy. Of course they had to bail when Basco showed up, but they had already made the video. This causes our main character to get angry. He is rather drunk. He grabs the phone and right before them he clenches it and completely destroys it like it was a box of juice. But then he passes out immediately afterward. Yep, that's right. Since he passed out, he wakes up in his other body. Not good. He knows it's not a good idea to leave his new body like that, and so he dashes straight there. When they ask him what he is doing there, he explains that he is a friend, hinting that he is the friend whom Hyung Suk lives with. Whatever, they weren't interested in bullying him anymore. Heck, our boxer friend even shows him how to pull off a proper punch just so he doesn't get beaten up later. After they leave, he decides to try it out. He braces himself in front of the punching machine and throws a punch the same way the boxer guy told him to. He doesn't hit the punching machine though, but he does barely graze it. He leaves all disappointed, but Basco, who noticed him throwing that punch, then took a look at the punching machine. He realizes that the point where he first grazed the machine is now all torn apart. Yes, he can tell, our boy has some serious potential. In the morning, Hyung Suk approaches Jiho. Little does he know his mother is visiting his place. You can probably imagine her distaste when she sees her son sleeping in the middle of the day when he should be at school. Eventually, he returns home in his new body and explains he is her son's roommate. Still, she's a bit worried and she asks if they can talk. Well, of course they can. He takes her to a Starbucks, but since, his mom was wearing shabby clothes, they start getting looks from other people in the cafe. Burn Knuckles' second in command is someone who works there. When he notices Hyung Suk walking in with the lady, he turns around. What's going on, he thinks. Anyway, the mother herself feels a bit distant after seeing the prices, so they just end up getting themselves some coffee and then sit down for a conversation. She asks if he is getting bullied or something like that. She's sad. If her son is still getting bullied, that would break her heart, but of course, the person sitting in front of her is her son to begin with. He reassures her that it's all good and also mentions that her son has made a lot of friends. Basco also happened to be there, and for what it's worth, he listens to their conversation. He does take it out of context though. He thinks he's the one who has been bullying the little guy, and now he's just lying to his mother. Be that as it may, the mother soon decides to return back. She gives our boy some money for his son and bids farewell. Basco sees the exchange takes place and he's furious. He takes Hyung Suk to somewhere empty and then throws a punch so strong, it ends up putting a dent in the metal. He thinks that Hyung Suk took that money from her. He doesn't know the full story. Hyung Suk doesn't know about Basco's true intentions either. However, he fights back and knocks out Basco with a spinning elbow. It was over as soon as it began. Bravo! Still, Basco pulls up to the convenience store in the evening and apologizes to the old boy for not being able to get his money back for him. He also inspires him to start training because he thinks that he has that potential. He heeds Basco's advice and starts push-ups in the story, but only a few minutes later, a gorgeous lady walks into the store. She's pleased to see him work so hard on himself while working at a job. So much so that she even buys him a protein drink. Going back to school, there is a guy who sits next to the boxer guy. His name is Jae-yol, and no one has ever actually seen him say something. He is mysterious, handsome, and also distinguishingly rich considering the kind of clothes and jewelry he wears. Now, of course, the students in the class start comparing him to Hyung Suk, and they can't help but notice that even though Hyung Suk looks perfect, his clothes are shabby and also kind of worn out. The girls don't notice the clothes because they're too busy appreciating his face and physique. Then there's also a student named Deok-hwa. He looks like he's getting bullied often, and sure enough, we see a dude in sunglasses bullying him. Of course, Hyung Suk doesn't like it, so he tells the sunglasses dude to knock it off. But well, let's just say Deok-hwa isn't interested in his kindness. Going back to Hyung Suk's classroom, he receives a call from his mother. It's about his birthday, which is tomorrow. Well, Jae-yol was still in the classroom. He overheard his conversation with his mother, and he also knows about the stuff other guys have been saying about his shabby clothes. Next day at school, Hyung Suk tries to sit with Ji-ho and Deok-hwa, but once again, Deok-hwa is wary of him. He is the type who distrusts people when they try to be too nice for no reason. But stay tuned, guys, we're in for a surprise. When school is over and Hyung Suk is on his way back in his cheap clothes, the guys who have been talking about his cheap and shabby clothes prepare to ambush him. But our boy never sees them that day. Instead, he sees Jae-yol. Jae-yol gives him a bag full of luxurious designer clothes, accessories, and whatnot. It's a birthday present. Hyung Suk is not sure if he should take it, but he reassures him that it's just his old stuff. So he ends up accepting the gift. Now you must be wondering what happened to the guys who were preparing to ambush your boy. Jae-yol took care of them, of course, but it looks like it wasn't enough. So in the morning, they are ready to do his reputation dirty when he shows up, but look at the surprised look on their stupid faces when Hyung Suk pulls up in like the top 10 trips of all time. Next up, we have Deok-hwa and the sunglasses dude gunning for an audition. Sadly, Deok-hwa is told to go home before he can even show his beautiful voice. Just because he doesn't have the looks, they treat him like a subhuman. However, deep in his heart and soul, he knows that all his hardship will only make him stronger. It will help him come up with better lyrics. He sees the poster for J1 High's talent show and decides to participate. Though in the evening when he returns home to his grandma's humble noodle stall, the sunglasses dude shows up with his cliché. His grandma thinks that they are friends, so she offers them free food, even though she can't afford to offer them free food at all, and they just eat everything. She still continues being nice and packs them something that they can take with them, but they end up throwing it in the garbage. Deok-hwa sees it happen. He sees them throw away his grandma's hard work in garbage, and if that wasn't enough, they start spreading rumors about her stall as well, how her food is unhygienic and whatnot. Deok-hwa still doesn't give in. He bears it. He's going to participate in the contest. Soon the sunglasses dude learns about his participation, and so he prepares to humiliate and destroy him in the cafeteria. But it's not the same J1 High anymore. Our boy Hyung Suk, his new friend Jae-yol, not to mention Basco from Bar Knuckles. All three of them pull up in front of the sunglasses dude. At that point, what could he do except to just suck it all up and walk away? The following day, Hyung Suk greets Deok-hwa, but it's clear that Deok-hwa still hasn't warmed up to our boy. He thinks Hyung Suk is just a fake guy who gets a kick out of allegedly helping the losers of society. He mentions that his idol Eminem also came from humble beginnings. All this suffering and hardship will simply make his songs even better. But he's not Eminem, is he? Eminem looked good. He looks ugly. The sunglasses dude later beats him up and also tears apart the lyrics he had written for the contest. But just when he's lying on the ground feeling defeated, he hears somebody's voice. He gets up and dashes straight to the source of the voice. Turns out it's our boy Hyung Suk, and it looks like Deok-hwa have heard enough because now he wants Hyung Suk to be his partner for the contest. Sounds good to Hyung Suk. They later meet at Deok-hwa's place and it's clear that he's kind of nervous. His place is a bit rundown and small. Little did he know Hyung Suk is the same. Finally, the two hit it off as buddies. They are ready to surprise everyone with his rapping and Hyung Suk singing. Now, when Hyung Suk is about to return, they both meet Deok-hwa's grandma. Like before, she asks if he's like to eat something, but he sincerely replies that he isn't hungry. And my friends, that's why Deok-hwa finally realizes that Hyung Suk is a real one. They start practicing for the contest. This one time, when old Hyung Suk is still on the clock at the convenience store, he starts practicing his singing because the store was empty. Well, the gorgeous lady from before enters the store. She's pleased by his voice and decides to reward him with a throat lozenge. You know, the stuff that helps your throat. The sunglasses dude is also preparing for the contest. He beats Deok-hwa once again though, this time in a back alley. But still, when Jiho, Dark-hwa, and old Hyung Suk are sitting together later, and they mention how things have improved ever since Hyung Suk joined, Basco ends up overhearing them. He asks them if what they said is true, and then realizes that he may have had the wrong idea about Hyung Suk after all. Then for what it's worth, the day of the festival arrives. You may remember the lady from the store who often buys things like protein shakes and throat lozenges for our boy. She also shows up for the contest. Hyung Suk notices her and then approaches her to say hello. He seems to have forgotten the fact that he is in his other body. Well, she thinks he's a playboy making things awkward for no reason, and she obviously has no interest in him. In response to this, her bodyguard named Jong-gun grabs Hyung Suk's arm. He shakes him off but then receives a Brazilian kick that forces him to fall to his knees. Basco enters the chat and stands up for his friend Hyung Suk. Well, Gun punches him in the face, but much to his surprise, Basco remains unfazed. This intrigues Gun, and so he takes his glasses off. For some reason, Gun's eyes are completely jet black, and you bet this was going to get super ugly pretty fast. But thankfully, the lady tells Gun that they are leaving. When they leave, Basco offers Hyung Suk a box of milk. Hyung Suk isn't sure if he should take it, but he says it's okay. He found it on the ground. That's just Basco being humble, though. Anyway, it's time for the contest, and Hyung Suk has to get there as soon as possible. When he arrives, the sunglasses dude is performing with his band. There is not much time. Jae-yol gives him some nice clothes, and so both Hyung Suk and Deok-hwa get ready to perform. The sunglasses dude returns from the stage, but punches Deok-hwa in the gut for literally no reason whatsoever. But it's cool, he'll get his revenge on stage. Now, when they are on the stage, everyone talks about the tragic contrast in their appearance. But surprisingly, Deok-hwa doesn't care. He's just happy that he's finally getting a chance to share his talent with the world. While Hyung Suk is getting stage fright, he picks the mic and kicks things into motion. Soon, both of them are in the zone. Through their singing and rapping, they tell the world everything about themselves. Their lives so far, the things they have experienced, the way the world has treated them, and the circumstances they have dealt with. They let it all out. When they appeared on the stage, everyone was making jokes, but now, no one is joking. They have all been mesmerized. Bosco even starts tearing up. And when they're done, the excitement fills the scene. Now, the director who previously rejected Deok-hwa approaches them, but as you can expect, he's only looking at Hyung Suk. But Hyung Suk tells him that he doesn't care because his friend isn't being considered. Be that as it may, when everything is said and done and Deok-hwa is sitting with Jiho and old Hyung Suk, the video of their performance comforts them. He wasn't recruited by the director for the music agency, but whatever. He's satisfied with the performance they pulled off. But for what it's worth, a lot of people watched videos of that performance, including an enigmatic DJ and of course that gorgeous lady from before as well. Believe it or not, she has a second body as well. This is where the recap ends, but let me tell you that the story goes far further than you can imagine. Definitely check it out on the official Webtoon app. It's phenomenal. And as for this recap, what did you guys think? As always, make sure you like, subscribe, and fill the comment section with your silly thoughts.